All right, kids, in July of 2015, a Mississippi man was notified by his daughter that she discovered their flag had been burned and the words "Blacks Rule" were spray painted in their driveway of their home in Pascagoula. Now, when I first heard about this Blacks Rule report, I wanted to see if there was spray paint on this man's hands because black people don't typically refer to ourselves as blacks. And if we boast about ourselves, we don't say we rule. And black people on social media agreed. Oh, and if you couldn't tell, the Mississippi flag, which now looks like this, at the time of this vandalism looked like this. While some people, like me, view the state flag with its controversial Confederate battle emblem as a symbol of racism, Mississippi man said it represents family heritage. His great-grandfather served in the 12th Mississippi Cavalry during the Civil War, aka Armistead's Cavalry Brigade, aka 12th Mississippi Cavalry, aka 16th Confederate Cavalry. So when this Mississippi man said, "That's my flesh and blood," he fought for a cause back when he was there when referring to his great-grandfather, just know that the cause was enslaving black people. And in Mississippi, they declared that their position is thoroughly identified with the institution of slavery, the greatest material interest of the world. With that said, Mississippi man was a disabled veteran before he died in 2017 and served in the Army during the Korean War. We should thank him for his service. More on this story later. We're going to talk about the narrative of black males being brutes and thugs, black boogeymen, if you will, because if we were as bad as middle America says we are, and the criminals they claim us to be, and as dangerous as we are depicted, as you'll see today, we wouldn't be blamed for crimes we didn't commit. And we wouldn't be 7 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted for something like murder. There are several reasons for this that have nothing to do with us being violent. For example, I've told you before about a Stanford study that says that black people, who are pulled over more frequently than white people during the day, are much less likely to be stopped after sunset, when a veil of darkness masks our skin color. That's just concerning stops. What about charges and convictions? Let's start with the spring of 2021, when an attorney called for 400 convictions linked to former Virginia police officer Jonathan Friedrich to be thrown out, including that of a DC firefighter who had been imprisoned for 20 months. Friedrich pulled over Elon Wilson in 2018 and found hundreds of oxycodone pills and 2 guns in the car. Wilson is married with a very young son and was a well-respected DC firefighter before all this went down. But the original reasons why Jonathan Friedrich pulled Wilson over to begin with were fallacious. Friedrich said that while driving, Wilson went left of center. Dash cam footage proved that was a lie. And Friedrich said that Wilson was slow to stop. When the police blue lights came on, Wilson hit the brakes, turned on a signal, and stopped within 21 seconds. So, no. This is why Friedrich worked for a Virginia police department for 5 years, but he got another job as a police officer in Florida, even after he made unconstitutional stop after unconstitutional stop with a racially disparate impact. He was relieved of his duties in Florida too. Later, Jonathan Friedrich, who was 25, was taken into custody where he was charged with DUI damage to property and leaving the scene of a crash with property damage. Moving on. Also in the spring of 2021, New York City prosecutors moved to vacate and dismiss about 100 plus cases in which ex-detective Joseph Franco served as a key witness. They were seeking dismissal of all cases in which Franco played an essential role. Most of the charges resulted in a guilty plea. Manhattan prosecutors indicted Franco on perjury charges in 2019, accusing him of lying in testimony and paperwork about witnessing drug transactions that security camera footage showed never took place. The police department fired him in April 2020. In the vast majority of those cases, Franco acted as an undercover buyer who provided information leading to an arrest. The 48-year-old Franco worked throughout New York City as a plainclothes narcotics cop from 2009 until his arrest in 2019. Look, I'm glad that justice was served with this former officer and this former detective. And as I mentioned earlier, according to a 2017 report, black people are 7 times more likely to be falsely convicted of murder than white people, and 3.5 times more likely to be innocent when accused of sexual assault because of misidentification, and 12 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted in drug cases. Furthermore, black people make up 49% of all wrongful convictions since 1989. But what I've shown you thus far has been about law enforcement. Now we're going to talk about pedestrians, normal old people. Of course, I could show you any number of Karen videos in order to prove my point, but this goes beyond a racist middle-aged white woman who uses her privilege to get her way or police other people's behaviors. Meet Patricia Ripley. This Florida mom was charged with first-degree premeditated murder after Miami, Florida police said that in her initial report that her son, who was nonverbal, was abducted by 2 black men during a carjacking. The whole thing was fake. Then there's Susan Smith's story to South Carolina police that her 2 sons, aged 1 and 3, were kidnapped by a black man during a carjacking. Smith, now serving 30 years to life, confessed that she actually let her car roll into a lake with the boys inside, drowning them. Plus, Charles Stewart reported to police that his pregnant wife was shot to death by a black man during a carjacking in a predominantly black community in Boston. He then pointed out an innocent African-American man in a police lineup. It wasn't until Stewart's brother told police that he helped with the murder in an alleged insurance fraud scheme that the truth came out. I could and should keep going, but I need to ask, and I hope you're asking, why black men? Why us? No other group of people or demographic is seen as violent instead of us or in addition to us. I mean, natives are seen as savages and Muslims are deemed terrorists. And I've dedicated at least 2 episodes to black on black crime myth, but that doesn't explain the lying, the false accusations, the involvement of law enforcement on fallacious nonsense that I've shown you. These killers are looking for monsters under their beds and checking their closets for us before they go to sleep. Meanwhile, they're using violence in the criminal justice system to savagely terrorize black men. So like, maybe they're the boogeyman, boogie woman, boogie people. The spirit of Carolyn Bryant Dunham hangs over all of this. She falsely accused Emmett Till of touching her and whistling at her. In that infamous case from 1955, 14-year-old Emmett Till was beaten and lynched. And his killers, Carolyn's husband and his brother, went scot-free. She allegedly admitted that she lied about the incident in 2017. If there's anyone watching this and fixing their fingers to type nonsense in my comment section, they may bring up Jussie Smollett, who is, he's a mess. Kids, he lied about being a victim of a hate crime. He set the whole thing up himself and was caught, charged, and convicted, as he should have been. Black people on social media agreed. But Jussie Smollett, nor what he did, isn't supported by a system that's backed by notions that have been a part of American culture since before an influential movie like Birth of a Nation. Originally called The Klansman, by the way. If there's a precedent of benefiting from falsifying a hate crime, then I must have missed it. I don't know why Jussie Smollett did what he did, but if he wanted to prove that the criminal justice system is messed up, all he had to do was describe everything I just discussed today. So, back to Mississippi Man. At least 2 black teenagers were arrested for vandalizing his property. And my feelings towards this report range anywhere from, nah, I bet they didn't do it, check his palms for spray paint, to, oh good, they got caught. Either way, this country has to have a boogeyman, and black men are vilified like it preserves American values, protects white women, and to maintain white supremacy. It's as if America knows that blacks rule. So we're gonna be all right.